Hello and welcome back to the 2022 Elkhart County Historical Museum Collections Tournament. Welcome back to Tournament Central and another matchup in the first round. Today we're going to take it to Michelle's bracket, where we're going to have a 1980s Miles Brochure for the Winter Olympics going up against the 1992 program for the first Elkhart African American homecoming. So, two really great archival materials, and we're going to see which one will move on to the Elite Eight. So, out to Michelle to present each item.
The Winter Olympics are wonderful, but it's not a winter wonderland when you've got acid indigestion.
And a headache you can hardly stand.
Alka-Seltzer is supporting the 1980 Olympic Games.
Welcome to the 2022 Collections Tournament, and my first object, as you just saw in the video clip, in 1980, Miles Laboratories sponsored the 1980 Winter Olympic Games. And if you have watched any of the previous year's contests, or you know a little bit about the city, history of the city of Elkhart, you'll know that Miles Laboratories was a big business in the area, operated for over 125 years before they sold to Bayer and ultimately moved their operations. And if you watch Patrick's matchup, the Nervine bottle, you'll probably hear a little bit more about the early years of that company and probably Dr. Miles himself. But my artifact, it focuses on, by far, the most well-known product produced by Miles Laboratories, and that is Alka-Seltzer. I'm sure everybody here has heard of Alka-Seltzer. Now, Alka-Seltzer, part of what made Alka-Seltzer so well-known is the genius marketing campaigns associated with the product. But what's really neat about my artifact is it actually peels back the curtain a little bit on those campaigns, because this is not an ad for Alka-Seltzer. This is actually a brochure that was produced in-house for the Miles employees, looking at what their marketing campaign was going to be for those Olympic Games and what their exposure was expected to be, what their return was expected to be. So as we move forward in the collections tournament, I'll dive into more of those numbers and look at some of maybe the other marketing campaigns associated with Alka-Seltzer, as well as, if we get far enough, the artist who actually designed this brochure was a local artist from Elkhart. So looking forward to seeing what you vote for, this or its opponent, which I'll be talking about in just a second. Welcome to the tournament and have a great time. The next object in my matchups is the 1992 first Elkhart African American Homecoming souvenir book from an event of the same name. Now, this book was gifted to us by a participant in a 2012 oral history project that the museum did along with Goshen College. It was called Coming to Elkhart, and the Coming to Elkhart project was intended to capture the stories and memories of the African American community that grew up in Elkhart City around the 19-teens and 20s. Now, African Americans have been living in Elkhart County at least as far back as the 1840s, we know, but there was a major influx in the 19-teens and 20s, and a tight-knit community that grew up around that influx. And this event was intended to celebrate those early families and that community that grew in Elkhart. Now, the influx in the 19-teens and 20s was not an accident. It was actually spurred by the railroads. The rail companies were recruiting specifically African Americans, and in this region, a lot of them came from Kentucky and Tennessee, to come up here to work for the railroads, promising higher wages and more stable wages than you could get as a farm laborer, where your crops would be, potentially not come in. So a lot of families moved up here and again formed that community. So flash forward 75 years, the homecoming was intended to be a celebration of that community, of that community's history. So as we move forward in the tournament, I'm excited to delve into some of that history, highlight potentially some of the individuals specifically named in this book, and also maybe look at some of the history of the churches. Churches feature very strongly in this book and in the African American community of Elkhart. So I don't begrudge you guys having to pick what goes on to the Elite Eight between this and the Miles Brochure, but I'm excited to see what you choose. So get out and vote, and we'll see you for the next one.
Thanks, Michelle. Two really great histories. And now you have to decide which one's going to move on to the Elite Eight. This will be posted to the museum's Facebook page and the Elkhart County Parks YouTube page. You have about 48 hours to vote, because the voting will end when the next video airs a few days from now. So if you want to see the brochure go on, post a comment that says the brochure, or post a comment that says the program if you'd like to see that go on to the Elite 8. Maybe one of these is going to go all the way and be the champion. But we won't figure that out until we work our way through the entire tournament. Until then, we're going to sign off here from Tournament Central. So thank you for watching this round of the 2022 Elkhart County Historical Museum Collections Tournament. Cast your vote, and we'll see you in the next matchup.